You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Just last week, conductor Daniel Raiskin emerged from his mandatory 14-day quarantine, and unsurprisingly, the maestro has been very busy since. This weekend, he returns to the Centennial Concert Hall to lead his first Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra streaming concert. And to tell us more about it, the maestros join me now for a conversation. Hello.
Hello, Simon. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you again. And I can't be more happy finally having made it to Winnipeg on the third attempt. It was a complicated journey with all the restrictions and limitations and health concerns, but it was worth every effort. And I'm incredibly happy to be able to be here and to reconnect to everyone in our community, and looking really forward to meeting musicians of the WSO tomorrow during our intense day of rehearsals, and obviously then a dress rehearsal on Friday and a concert, unfortunately just for the camera lens, but viewed by hopefully hundreds devoted listeners and patrons of WSO through the live stream we're offering.
So before we get to all of that, I do want to say, you mentioned all of your travels. Third time's the charm for you to arrive to Winnipeg. I'm so thrilled that you're here, but I do have to admit by saying that I find it rather funny that you've traveled 6,500 kilometers across an ocean from Amsterdam to Winnipeg for a concert called Evening in Vienna, which is less than 1,000 kilometers from home.
That's true, and I have been, making music in Vienna and around for many years in the past, and now particularly connected to that airport, because every time I'm going to Bratislava, where I also regularly work with the Slovak Philharmonic, I actually land in Vienna airport, and it's just a 45 minutes drive from there to the Bratislava Slovak Philharmonic building. Well, the other trick of a tale is that, my third attempt and finally reaching Winnipeg, it seems that I couldn't have come at a worse time when the whole province and the city are in code red. That said, it still doesn't prevent us from producing this events coming Friday and next week Friday, adhering to a very strict protocol that has been in place for many weeks already. And this is where having such a large concert hall with such a extensive stage is actually very good, because we can guarantee really very good distances between the musicians, and working now with only very, very small groups, winds and strings separately, never really interacting behind the stage and on stage. And you mentioned it's an evening in Vienna, and I don't know how many times the program of this concert has been rethought, recomposed, recalibrated, refurbished, and strangely enough, happily, we have still Mozart on the program, so there's a direct connection to Vienna. And though Mendelssohn has traveled to Vienna on several occasions, it's not really a city you immediately associate Mendelssohn with. It's more Leipzig and Berlin, or Hamburg, his birthplace. But these are all kind of formalities and of the day, and the point is that we are really able to make live music live for us, and whatever small groups we have, we are still going to enjoy doing this together, even if we are 2.5, 3 meters distant of stage.
So I do want to ask you, you mentioned how familiar you are with Vienna, and this is a concert celebrating that music mecca that is the city, and those two famously prodigious composers who worked and traveled there, as you say. Of course, Mendelssohn not really living there, but he most certainly traveled there. I do want to start off by asking about the Mozart, because Mozart wasn't born in Vienna, but famously became its adoptive son. And I know that this is a huge question. I know that this is the topic of many a dissertation, but if you could tell us briefly about what Mozart means to Vienna.
Well, Mozart had a very difficult relationship with Vienna. He also had a very difficult relationship with Salzburg, to its seeming provinciality, and relationship to the Archbishop, who basically Mozart was serving for so many years. And these were golden chains, maybe even not so golden, guaranteeing some kind of permanent income, but really standing largely in the way of his freedom and creative genius. And he was seeking the nearness to the court in Vienna, of course, because this would have been the very practical source not only of income but of recognition. Because if you wanted to be often performed in Vienna, you needed to be recognized and favored by the court. Even the work we're going to perform tomorrow has to do with this drive, his urge to, through various channels, come to in front of the eyes and the ears of the emperor, to be favored, and then by that probably being able to secure the court position. Unfortunately for Mozart, throughout his whole life, other people were favored and much closer to court of Austrian emperor, notably Salieri, whom Mozart actually, despite the legendary stories about their flawed relationship, Mozart had the greatest respect for it, actually was even taking lessons from him. And you know the whole story about Mozart actually being buried in a mass grave for poor people.
Yeah, pauper's grave.
Poverty, and until today, we actually don't know the exact place of where Mozart rests. It's kind of underlines the way this relationship worked, and he moved a number of times in Vienna from one place to another, mostly because of financial problems he had endured and didn't have means to actually support himself and his family, and you know, renting places where he would want to be. That said, Mozart made an incredible impact on Vienna and Vienna music in the times when Haydn was still in the pinnacle of his abilities, but more interested in commercial possibilities that London, for example, offered at that time. And Mozart lived very fast and very short life, of which the years in Vienna brought incredible masterpieces to us. But what for me always was the key point in Mozart's relationship with Vienna is he has been revealing more and more of his true nature as a person during these years. And we know his wonderful love affair with Prague, which embraced him to an extent which Vienna never showed. And yet he, in the rare moments of glory, acceptance, and triumph in Vienna, he was really bathing in the rays of this fame. And it was very obvious also in the letters he was so often writing to his father, where he underscores how important it was for him to be accepted, recognized, and celebrated, even through such funny artificial seemingly things as like adding timpani and trumpets to already an existing work, because this, you know, drums and trumpets are the attributes of an emperor, and that was supposed to catch one's ear and one's eye. But then, you know, there are also stories about Austrian emperor listening to Mozart works and notably saying, well, too many notes, you know. So this is also underlines the way or the kind of people Mozart had to deal with, their stubborn simplicity and not real understanding of music, and yet being the ones to make decisions for how it will proceed in Mozart's life.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, a great juxtaposition, and most certainly a mini history lesson there in about 2.5 minutes, which was great. And I mean, you talk about the acceptance of the city, and I think there's an anecdote about this work that's on the program, the Serenade in E flat, where he heard it performed outside of his window by an amateur group of musicians or something like that, and it was just very gratifying for him, in one of those letters to his father or something like that.
Well, it's not maybe even the amateur group, but it was the group that performed it twice during the evening.
Right.
At the soiree of
it's party music is what it is. Yeah.
Court-appointed musicians, and the musicians who played it there, because this was one of the pieces that was composed by Mozart particularly to appeal to the taste of the emperor. But the musicians who played it, they fell in love with the piece so much that they then, following the story, the anecdote, went to where Mozart lived and played the piece in front of his window. I mean, what is the serenade? It's a nocturnal piece of entertaining music, which is supposed to, be joyful, fun, but also seductive if this is played in front of the balcony of a mysterious beauty you want to be noticed by, And this particular piece is also revealing in such a way that, having written 41 symphony, 27 piano concertos, vast array of chamber music, quartets, trios, serenades, Mozart was all about opera, and opera was for him the kind of artificial reality, virtual reality, where his heroes were living, dying, falling in love, deceiving, finding peace, and falling in love again. So this piece in the central beautiful adagio, there is this incredibly revealing moment which almost literally quotes the duet from the second act of Don Giovanni, of Don Ottavio and Donna Anna, and this is for me the key in this music, how much opera and this kind of created life, not the reality, but the one that one figured out on his own, was occupying Mozart's mind.
So when we think of musical prodigies, of course, Mozart comes to mind. But for many, Mendelssohn is really considered an equal in terms of the sheer remarkable talent displayed at a tender age. And there's also some Mendelssohn on this program as well, right?
I'll take it a step further. I think that, well, it's well known that Mendelssohn was often called Mozart of the 19th century. And particularly in the younger years, notwithstanding, all the legends about Mozart playing blindfolded and, being able to write down the music after hearing something only one time, all these little legends are also helped by such iconic movies as Amadeus, as we know, and also his relationship with Salieri and all that. But I would say that it's a known fact that the kind of maturity Mendelssohn showed in the same tender age as Mozart actually surpassed what we got from Mozart in the age of 10, 11, 12, early teens. And the string symphony we're playing, Symphony Number 7, one of the 12 string symphonies Mendelssohn written between age 11 and 13, showcases an incredible compositional maturity, perfection of form, an incredible eagerness that drives him to explore also remarkable knowledge of string instruments. Look, he is known to have been a brilliant piano player, very accomplished at a very early age, but the way he writes this incredibly lucid, sparkling textures for the string orchestra is nothing short of remarkable. And once again, you think of a boy with a long curly hair, age of 12, 13, and it's just impossible to imagine such maturity and wealth of technique.
It's very true. It is, as you say, beyond impressive. And if you close your eyes, you'll never picture a little 12-year-old sitting there working at the score and producing this. Now, I do want to ask the string symphonies as well as the serenade, not calling on a large number of players, hardly the 67 of the WSO. Is that how you're able to perform these works given the Code Red pandemic?
Well, as I mentioned before, whatever we play during this recomposed season is very far away from the original concept. That immediately after we realize that, our life and our plans are all going to be changed dramatically starting the beginning of March, we started to work on creating various protocols and formats to be able, looking forward to how the situation will unfold, being able to come what being able to play and to offer live music. And one of the things we were able to do for quite a long time are all our virtual online offerings. But when it came to finally being able to gather in the concert hall and really follow the official protocols of medical officials and government officials imposed in Manitoba, we were able to start with groups of maximum 40 musicians on stage. And the first two concerts that were offered to our audiences, conducted by Julian Pelicano, one with audience and one without, had the orchestra of 40 musicians. But at the same time, every concert we recreated, we had plans to have an ensemble of 25 or from 10 to 20, or if needed, really going to a absolutely small scale chamber music ensembles. So, and being so well equipped for all these eventualities, we realized very soon after the province has announced that Winnipeg and Manitoba going into code red, and though as religious services, as much as the cultural organizations, we are absolutely allowed to offer the online streamed events. But, we wanted to be very thorough with our preparation. So the two POPs concerts that were scheduled for November, and this is kind of a more difficult repertoire to suddenly scale down to 12 or 10 people, we postponed these events. We don't want to cancel anything, and we will have plenty of dates to offer later. But after that, we realized that we were able, very carefully, adhering to our protocols, to create programs that would call only on a few musicians, very well separated on stage. Everything will be sanitized. We have short rehearsals during the concert. Even the material, the chairs, the stands, people who just play, the wind players, will be replaced and sanitized before the string players coming in. So we really don't take any risks. Concert is, of course, it can be also one person, but right. The etymology of the word calls for two or more people doing something in harmony, in concert. So interacting, playing, talking, agreeing to something. So our concept of concert is, it doesn't matter at the end where we call on 67, 40, 25, 8 or 10 or 12. If we're able to really project this incredible joy of making music here and now in Winnipeg by the people whose faces and whose lives are exposed and known by so many in the city, by us, for you, by the community of the Winnipeg, which are musicians of Winnipeg, for the community of the Winnipeg, which are the listeners and everyone who will tune in. I think this is the most important. And don't forget that I mentioned it today on TV or in some other interviews that, for us, and I absolutely believe that being a musician is one of the things which is not really a profession. It's not a set of skills. It's something much more than that. You can be one only if it's who you are. It's just, but it's very difficult to be who you are if you actually cannot express yourself in the way you are. And this is where this incredible process of losing your identity starts. And for us, being able to perform and giving these concerts is as important as for the people to being able to nourish their souls, through what we offer, this two wonderful, sunny celebrations of music and human spirit, which music of Mozart and Mendelssohn offer.
You can hear the excitement and the ache in your voice to do what you do best, and that is to be a musician and to be a conductor. So, Maestro, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to chat with us about this upcoming show. Wishing you well. It really does sound great.
Thank you very much, Simeon. And I just last a word. I wanted to thank everyone at the WSO, the administration, the staff, the board, the musicians for whom, constantly making these plans change and adhering to we were preparing this and then that, and now we're doing something else. We're used to a very long kind of term planning cycle, but now everyone has to rethink the way we do it. And, my gratitude goes to everyone who makes this possible. And myself as a conductor, I will try to enable these concerts and for our musicians to become a wonderful celebration of who they are.
An Evening in Vienna online, the first streaming concert conducted by Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra music director Daniel Raiskin, is Friday, November 27th. The stream starts at 7:30. For more information or to purchase a streaming code, visit WSO.ca.